crochet this winter hat Christmas decoration with me. Hi there, I'm Cilla from Cilla Crochets, and I'm here to cheer you on throughout your crochet journey, no matter what stage you're at. In this crochet tutorial, I am going to show you how to make this winter hat Christmas ornament. Now make sure you check that description below before we get started. There is a written crochet pattern link. It's free, it's on my blog, but there are also timestamps in that description below, so you can click on them to go to the different sections of the video that you need when you need them. Now if you are making this little winter hat Christmas ornament with me, once you've finished your make, please do take a photo, stick it on social media and tag me at Cilla Crochets. I would really love to see your creation. Now, let me show you what materials we'll need. To make this little winter hat decoration, you will need some DK yarn. In the original pattern, I've used 3 colours. I've used the white, the berry, and this gold. The white and the berry is Rico Rikorumi DK, so it's cotton yarn. And then this gold really shiny yarn is a Rico Rikorumi Lame. For today's tutorial, I am just using 2 colours. I'm using some scrap acrylic yarn that I've got in hot pink, and then I've got some Rikorumi DK 100% cotton. That is not scrap, that is a new ball. So don't be afraid to mix up your colours. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this scrap yarn I've got is Signet DK. You'll also need a crochet hook. I'm using a 2.5mm Clover Amour, my favourite. If you're in the US, you can use a size C or a 2.75mm as a substitute. The only thing I would say is make sure you use a smaller crochet hook than what your yarn label recommends. And that is just so we avoid any stuffing coming through those stitches. You'll also need a tapestry needle, some scissors, some stuffing if you'd like to make your shape 3D like this one. If you want to just make a 2D shape though, that's fine too, in which case you won't need the stuffing. You'll also need a stitch marker. Lastly, you can use some sewing pins. That is completely optional though. The pins would be used for the assembly part when we're putting the 2 flat shapes together and then crocheting around the edge. You could pin the 2 flat shapes together as we're crocheting. Just for you to be aware, I am using US terminology today. As for stitches today, you will need to know how to chain, slip stitch, single crochet back and forth in rows. You'll need to know how to increase and decrease, and also how to crochet in the back loop only. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to be using the pink acrylic yarn for the hat band and also the little pom-pom at the top, and the middle of the hat will be grey, and we'll be starting to crochet from the bottom of the hat, working our way up to the top for the flat piece. Let's start with the colour that you want for the hat band and the bobble, so I'm going to use the pink, and we're going to chain 13. Okay, so that's our chain of 13. Now we'll start in the second chain from the hook. So not this one, but this one just underneath it. And we will single crochet in each chain down. So it will be 12 single crochet stitches in total. So second chain from hook, first single crochet, second chain, second single crochet, next chain is the third single crochet, and so on. And I'll meet you at the end of this row. Now at the end of row 1, just double check that you have 12 single crochet. Perfect, we do. So to end the row, we will chain 1 and turn our work to crochet in the other direction. Now we'll crochet 12 single crochet again, so 1 single crochet in each stitch across until we get to the end. Let's do that now. Alright, and that is our last single crochet in that row. So again, we just want to check that we've got 12 stitches. We do. At this stage, we're actually going to cut our yarn and fasten off. You don't need to leave a long yarn tail for sewing, just a little bit so we can weave in our ends. And then yarn over and pull through all the way to create that lovely little knot. Now we are turning our work as though we were going to start crocheting in the other direction, and we will be crocheting in the other direction, and we'll get our second yarn color, the color that we want the main part of the hat to be. So I'm choosing grey, and what we're doing is, we need to be careful, but we're going to crochet in the back loops only. So we've flipped our work. You should have your starting yarn tail on the left here, and the bit we fastened off just at the top right here. To identify the back loops, this is the front loops of our stitches because it's facing us, but we want to turn our work up so we can see the top of our stitches, the V's, and we want to go in to the back stitch of the V. So for example, that's a back loop there, that's a back loop there. You can see because we've got the V, so that's the front loop, that's the back loop, because we're crocheting this way. Okay, so you want to go into your last single crochet stitch. Mine is quite hard to see just because of the yarn I've used, but it will be under right next to your knot. To be on the safe side, you can actually count your V's and just make sure it's the 12th stitch starting from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we are going to go into our back loop there. So you're inserting your hook into the back loop at the very end stitch where we just fastened off. And then you're going to attach the new yarn color like that. And to attach it properly, so it's a bit secure, we're just going to yarn over and pull through. So just chain one. And now we will crochet in all of the back loops, just one single crochet stitch. So it will be 12 single crochet stitches again, but we're only crocheting into the back loop of the stitches. So let's go on and do that now. Do the first stitch in the same stitch where you've attached the yarn. So this is row 3 that we've just crocheted. Just double check that you have 12 single crochet stitches, but you'll see because we've crocheted in the back loops only, there's this nice little ridge here that makes this pink look like it's further forward, and the grey is behind, which is exactly the effect we're going for. So to finish off row 3, you want to chain one and turn your work to start crocheting in the opposite direction. From here on up, we are going to continue crocheting normally, so in under the full V, not worrying about back loops or front loops. So for row 4 to 6, that is the next 3 rows, we will single crochet across. So that is 1 single crochet in each stitch across, which will be 12 single crochet, and then we will chain one and turn, and we'll repeat that 2 more times. So that is for row 4, 5, and 6. So let's go on and do row 4 now. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 2 single crochet. And we'll just continue on like that until the end of the row. We'll chain 1 and we will turn. Right, so we'll chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do the same thing 2 more times for row 5 and row 6. So I will meet you back here at the end of row 6. So that's the end of row 6, so you've already chained one and you've turned your work. So this here is row 6 that we're looking at. We'll go on to row 7, and in row 7 we're going to reduce the number of stitches in the row by decreasing twice at the beginning and at the end. So the stitch pattern is 1 decrease, then 8 single crochet, so 1 single crochet in the next 8 stitches, and then a decrease at the end of the row, then we chain 1 and we turn. So let's go on and do that now. First starting with our decrease, so we insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, then you yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. If you're used to making amigurumi and doing invisible decreases, I recommend not doing those for this project. So just do a standard decrease, and that is because we're working flat. So now we'll do 8 single crochet. That is 8 single crochet done, so you should have 2 stitches left in the row, which we will use to do another decrease. There we go. So at this point, before we chain and turn to go on to row 8, you just want to check that you have 10 stitches in this row. Perfect, so then you chain 1 and turn your work. Now row 8 and row 9 are the same, and it is 10 single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. So we're just doing 2 rows of single crocheting in each stitch across. So let's just go on and do that now, and I'll meet you back for row 10. Alright, so that's our chain and our turn for row 9. So we've done row 8 here and row 9 here of just 1 single crochet in each stitch across. In row 10 we're going to decrease again, so we'll do a decrease, then 6 single crochet in the middle, and then a decrease at the end. We'll chain 1 and turn our work. So we'll start off by doing that decrease, then we'll do 6 single crochet. Okay, then we're going to do a decrease in those last 2 stitches, bringing those together like that. We'll chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to single crochet across for row 11. So let's go on and do that. So that's 8 single crochet now in total. Chain 1 and turn. So row 12, we're reducing our stitches again. So we do decrease, 4 single crochet, and then a decrease in the last stitch. Let's go on and do that. So decrease, chain 1 and turn. For row 13, we're doing roughly the same thing with a decrease, but then 2 single crochet in the middle and a decrease at the end. So at the end of row 13, you should just have 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. We chain 1 and turn our work. For row 14, we're doing just 2 decreases. So first decrease, here's our second decrease, chain 1 and turn our work. And for row 15, we do 1 decrease. Now we're at the top of the hat until we get to this little pretend pom-pom. At this stage, we're going to cut our yarn and fasten off. Alright, and now we will turn our work to crochet back in the other direction. We will insert our hook into that top stitch. The last single crochet that we just did, be careful here not to insert your hook into the bit where you fastened off. You want to make sure it's in the actual single crochet stitch you've just made. So at this stage you want to get your second color or the color that you want for your pom-pom, and we're going to attach this yarn to that stitch. So we just pull it through. We'll chain one just to attach the yarn, and then we will increase in this one stitch. So this is going on to row 16. We've done our chain, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets into that same stitch where we've just attached the yarn. So that is our 2 single crochets. We will chain one and turn our work again. And for row 17, we're going to do 2 more increases. So that is 2 single crochets into each stitch there. In row 18, we're going to do 2 decreases. So we're going back in the other direction now, making it smaller. So 1 decrease. This is our second decrease. We'll chain one and turn our work. Now for row 19, we're just doing 1 decrease. And here we do not chain because we are at the top of our hat. So we can cut our yarn. You don't need to leave a long tail for sewing. And fasten off. Now at this stage we want to sew in our yarn tails because it's going to be quite messy trying to sew around the outside. You can of course leave them if you're doing a 3D shape and just tuck them in as you crochet around, but for the example I am definitely sewing in my yarn ends. It is up to you, but it will be a lot easier to see your stitches if these tails aren't getting in the way. Those yarn tails are now all sewn into our piece. If you're making your decoration into a 3D shape with stuffing in between, you will need to go and make a second one of these. So just repeat the steps, go back to the part of the video where we've started making this hat and make another one. As an alternative, you can of course make a flat shape and just continue on with these steps I'm about to show you with one piece, ignoring the stuffing. I am making the 3D shape as per my original pattern, so I've already made a second hat so we can crack on and crochet around the edges. Both of them have yarn tails sewn in to the wrong sides of them. Remember, the front sides of this shape are where the pink at the bottom is in front of the grey, so it looks popped out a little bit. Now you want to put the wrong side of the pieces together, and we're going to hold those in place so we can attach yarn to both sides of the piece and start crocheting around the edge. Before I start with that, wherever you start on the piece is where you will end. And it's also where the loop of your decoration will go. So I've put mine in the top, but you can of course start somewhere else if you would rather the loop go, I don't know, at the side, for example. So just be aware wherever you start is very close or right next to where the loop will go. So just to explain, I started just to the left of the loop for this decoration here. I really don't want you to worry too much about stitch counts here, but the rough rule of thumb is 1 single crochet in each row down as we go around the sides. At the bottom, because we've chained, it will be easier just to do 1 single crochet in each of the chains at the bottom. Now in the corner stitches, so the corners count in this piece as this one and this one over here, we do 3 single crochet in each of the corner stitches. So 3 single crochet in 1 stitch at those corners. And that just helps us move around the corners smoothly without making them look too pinched at the sides. Once we get to about here, so we're going to start here, work our way down, and once we get to roughly around here, we will stop and put some stuffing in, and we'll see how we go. We may need to continue stuffing a little bit as we go up, and that will just be based on, you know, each of us individually and how much stuffing we put in initially and how full you want the shape to be as well. Let's go on and start connecting our shape. Also, decide what color you want to be around the edge. For mine, I'm going to actually use the pink again. So I'm going to start in the stitch that's right next to the top because I want my loop to be in the top. So I'm starting just next to that to the left. And we will attach the pink. So make sure you had your hook through both pieces. Just before I go on, you may also find it useful to use sewing pins at this point just to hold your two pieces together until you get to the point where we start stuffing. I don't like using pins, I find they get in the way. However, it may help you if you find your pieces are moving around too much. So yarn over and pull through just to attach the yarn that we've added. And then let's insert our hook into both pieces. You want to try and keep them aligned. And single crochet, one stitch. Then we go into the next row, or as close as we can roughly, and we will single crochet again. Now if you feel you need more or less stitches, go for it. There is no hard and fast rule here about how many stitches to use. I have put stitch counts in the written pattern, of course, but really I don't want you to worry about them too much, because the idea is that you're just crocheting around the edge of the piece, so you're paying attention to what looks good for your crocheted piece. You don't want the stitches to be too far apart, but you also don't want them to be too close together and pinched in appearance. But the rough rule of thumb is just one single crochet in each row as we go down the edge of the shape. Alright, so now we're up to the corner. So at this point you want to do 3 single crochet into that same corner stitch. So 3 stitches in one. There we go, like that. So it just helps us get around the corner. Crocheting along the bottom is a lot easier because you're just lining up those chain stitches. So now at that corner stitch, we just want to do 3 single crochet again into that same stitch just to get us around the corner so it doesn't look too pinched. About at this point, let's add some stuffing. So how much stuffing is completely up to you and how full you want your shape to look. I'm only going to put a tiny bit in because I want mine to look a little bit flatter than this one here, so I'm not going to put as much stuffing in. So once you're happy with this stuffing, we're going to just continue to crochet around the edge. Nothing changes as we get to the pink section. We're just continuing to crochet into the sides. I know it's a little bit harder to see. Okay, so now in the top, we are going to insert our hook in. Okay, it's a bit hard to see because of the pink, I'm sorry about that. But basically you're inserting your crochet hook into that one. It was a decrease, but the one stitch that you did in the last row of the decoration on both sides, both pieces. So then we'll do a single crochet in the top. And at this point, because we're at the top of the winter hat, we are going to do a chain. So I chain 20 for my loop. However, if you want your loop longer, just add more chains. If you want it shorter, just add less. but 20 is a good starting point just to see if you're happy with the length. $19, $20. That is 20 chains done. We loop it over, so it does look really long, but when you loop it, it doesn't look that long at all. So we're going to do a single crochet into the same stitch where we started from. Hopefully this is not too difficult for you. It's just the yarn I'm using that makes it quite difficult from my end. All right, so that's that bit done. Now to finish off, you're going to do a slip stitch into the first single crochet where you originally attached your yarn. So just yarn over, pull through, and then you just draw that through. So that's our slip stitch done. Now let's fasten off. So first, cut your yarn, then yarn over and pull through, and that will just create a tiny little knot that keeps that nice and secure. Now for me, I like my loop to be nice and pinched at the bottom. So I'm going to use this yarn tail to sew the two bottom chains together, so it just gives that nice pinched appearance at the top of the decoration. So I'll insert my tapestry needle just into those two bottom chains, and then I'm just going to loop it back around and go into the back of the chain and back into the same spot of the second one. And there we go. And that just pinches the loop together so it looks nice and neat at the top. Now we will just weave in all of our yarn tails. And that is our winter hat complete. And there we have it, a winter hat Christmas ornament. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you've been able to follow along and make your own winter hat Christmas ornament. I would really love to see your make if you have. Please pop a photo on social media and tag me at Cilla Crochets so I can give you some love and support you on your crochet journey. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, hit the subscribe button and turn the little bell on so you get notified when any more videos are released. Until next time, happy crocheting!